Hello, ladies and gentlemen. In today's video, we will explore a palm that contains many special signs, from the ups and downs in marriage, the career path, financial fortune, to a fulfilling later life after the age of 60. This is a triple palm with many rare features, representing a life full of experiences, great effort, and profound lessons. If you're interested in learning about your destiny through palmistry, don't miss a single moment of this video. If you find these insights helpful and wish to follow more content about physiognomy, palmistry, and life direction, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our latest videos. He was born in 1974, which makes him 51 years old this year. First, when taking an overall look at the palm, we can see that it is relatively thick, and the palm lines on this hand are also quite clear. However, even with such lines, there appear to be quite a few cuts and interruptions, which partly reflect the difficulties he has gone through in recent times. With this type of palm, upon observation, it's evident that he had quite an active youth, having done many jobs and possibly traveled to many places. If he was doing business, his money or work likely came from various sources, even from faraway places. Looking at the lifeline, we see it curves like the letter C, encircling the entire Mount of Venus. This trait shows that he is someone who dares to take action and is bold and energetic. He is a person who is thoughtful and capable. Moreover, beneath this lifeline, there is a long branching line. This is known as the travel line, also called the fishtail lifeline. People with this feature often have a destiny of working far from home or having to travel frequently. In addition, with these characteristics, his youth was quite challenging. But there is one very positive aspect. His later years, that is, the period after 50, will be much better. People like him are often supported by their children or receive a lot of help from society. On this hand, his thumb has a relatively large tip, though not too long. With this type of hand shape, it can be seen that he is not someone who enjoys competition or conflict. He tends to live in harmony with others and is quite sentimental. However, there is one distinct feature on this palm. His headline and lifeline separate very early, right from the beginning. This is one of the signs of someone who has had to struggle from a young age. It's likely that since he was young, around his early 20s or even earlier, he was already working to earn a living, having faced hardship and wandered through many places. There is another very special trait on this palm. He possesses a hand with the shape known as the prajna boat. People who have this prajna boat formation in their palm usually experience a rather drifting and unsettled youth. The prajna boat carries many meanings, but one of its most profound is related to spirituality. Those with this feature are often believed to have performed good deeds or engaged in spiritual practices in past lives, or to have lived very virtuous lives. In this life, they inherit the image of the boat and tend to be spiritually guided. Often, they can clearly sense that their intuition is strong, both in work and in life. They frequently have an inner voice or receive guidance through some spiritual connection. Right in the area of the lifeline on his palm, there are also upward curving lines. This is another sign of strong intuition, also known as the sixth sense. And when he works by following his intuition, it is usually very accurate. At the center of the palm, there is also a triangle of virtue and blessings. This is one of the very positive signs regarding later life. People with this triangle usually enjoy great fortune in old age. They don't have to worry too much about money and often receive support and help from their family and children. For those who have both the prajna boat and the triangle of virtue and blessings, achieving a fulfilling later life typically requires certain sacrifices in youth. On this palm, we can clearly see signs of hardship and struggle, as shown by the presence of many shapes resembling X's and crosses in the center of the palm. This sign also indicates financial losses during youth. These may have been caused by business ventures, travels, or jobs he participated in, which encountered many obstacles. In addition, there are lines of financial leakage extending from the spaces between the fingers. This shows that between the ages of 30 and 40, with this type of palm, the likelihood of money flowing outward is relatively high. Work during that period was also unstable. He had a tendency to change residence and jobs multiple times, leading to a lack of stability in life. Another sign on this palm is that he has two very clearly defined wrist lines. People with two wrist lines often represent a good later life. However, having only two wrist lines also suggests a difficult youth, as they carry many burdens on their shoulders. They not only have to worry about their own lives, but also about those of their family members. These burdens continuously appeared during his younger years. However, he is a realistic person with a strong sense of action. Therefore, he always tends to live positively and is able to overcome all challenges. Currently, on this palm, the lifeline is long and combined with multiple wrist lines, which indicates a relatively long lifespan. However, at this moment, there are unfavorable signs appearing on the lifeline. Specifically, there is a rather large triangle on the lifeline, and many very clear cutting lines appear around it. This is one of the signs suggesting that between the ages of about 40 to 45, he may undergo surgery, or at the very least, experience a health issue requiring surgical intervention. Additionally, right at the beginning of the lifeline, there is also a special sign. It indicates that in his youth, he may have had near-death experiences or unexpected accidents. However, this palm, after periods of hardship and failure, also shows that he has achieved certain successes in life. He has gained some achievements, owns property, and has accumulated a certain amount of wealth. Furthermore, on the heart line, there are also some signs related to property. This shows that he may own a comfortable level of housing, not someone who is too financially lacking. At present, my work is also trending in a positive direction. However, during this period, I still have to shoulder quite a lot, so it cannot be considered a completely fulfilling phase yet. That's why I still have to keep striving, and at times during this stage, I fall into a state of loneliness, meaning there are moments when I cannot share my emotions or thoughts with anyone. As a result, my inner self is going through considerable turmoil, especially regarding love and emotions. On this hand, the thumb also features a pattern known as the phoenix eye line, combined with the image of the Prajna boat. This indicates that this palm carries a strong spiritual inclination. People with such hands are best suited to doing virtuous deeds, engaging in spiritual practices, or participating in religious or meditative work, which will be very fitting and bring positive outcomes. My finger gaps are not very open, and the financial leakage lines extending from the finger gaps are not prominent either. Therefore, during this period, financial accumulation is gradually forming. But truly, the most important concern right now is my later life, since I am already 51 years old this year. Thus, health, work, and finances during this stage are critically important. Regarding health, there are signs of illness appearing on the palm. At the end of the lifeline, there are many breaks and disruptions. Such disruptions on the lifeline somewhat reflect a high likelihood of suffering from issues related to bones, joints, and possibly the kidney system. Therefore, I need to pay special attention to my health. In addition, near the wrist area, there is a fate line rising upward. However, this line is curved, wavy, and not very clear. It also has many broken segments. The fate line that comes inward from the outside is similarly broken. As a result, throughout my life, it's clear that I've changed jobs quite a lot. And in terms of success, this palm shows that the level of success is not particularly high. That's why everything in this life has come from my own gradual efforts. On this palm, there are also some lines related to health, and notably, one line that reflects communication ability. When this line appears, it indicates that the person has a natural talent for expression and good communication skills. Therefore, this palm is quite suitable for jobs related to business or investment. However, the level of success on this palm is not considered significant. While there are signs of assets, they are not prominent, so overall, the degree of wealth is at a fairly average level, not that of a very wealthy person. Therefore, it is best that I live with a mindset of contentment and knowing what is enough. Additionally, the thumb on this hand is not very long. With this form, it indicates that I am not someone who enjoys competition or conflict. I am a person who knows contentment and practices self-cultivation. People like this often lead a rather peaceful and joyful life. Another prominent feature on this hand is that the ring finger is longer than the index finger. This usually signifies someone with strong communication skills and a tendency to express themselves. If you are involved in work related to communication or sharing values with others, it would be a great fit. This hand also shows the inclination of someone involved in healing, guiding others, or working as a spiritual teacher. Therefore, if you have the opportunity to explore those fields, it would be highly beneficial for you. The fingertips on this hand are also quite rounded, which indicates creativity, especially in work. In terms of marriage, the heart line is quite clear and long, showing that you are a deeply emotional person. However, the heart line also has many small downward branches, suggesting that in relationships you tend to be emotionally dependent and often live for others, sometimes forgetting your own needs. Although you have the qualities of a leader and a strong sense of practicality, once emotions are involved, it becomes very difficult for you to detach. On the Mount of Mercury, there are also multiple marriage lines. 2 lines appear parallel and relatively even, which indicates a high possibility of experiencing 2 marriages or significant upheavals in your marital life. Additionally, between the middle finger, representing oneself, and the ring finger, representing the spouse, there is a large gap. This suggests that in romantic relationships or marriage, there are frequent conflicts, misunderstandings, or arguments. The peak of these emotional cracks is clearly reflected on the right hand, the hand that represents what you have actually experienced. Right in the area of the heart line on this hand, there is a noticeable break, indicating that a major turning point or disruption may have occurred in your marriage. This is one of the signs showing that your marriage might not have been smooth. It's likely that you have gone through difficulties in your married life, particularly between the ages of 35 and 40. While it is not clear what exactly happened, a fairly large triangle appears just below the heart line. Additionally, the heart line branches out into multiple segments, reflecting that you are a deeply emotional person and are often affected by family pressures. On this hand, there is a very clear sign. You possess a triple palm, meaning the 3 major lines, life, head, and heart, are completely separate. This indicates that you are experienced, have faced many challenges, and possess strong leadership qualities. You are determined, hardworking, and have foresight. Therefore, if you focus on accumulating wealth, think long-term about saving, and stay away from gambling or anything based on luck or risk, your later years will be very prosperous. On the Mount of Mercury, there are several lines related to financial fortune. This is a sign that you have a natural affinity for wealth. Your assets will gradually accumulate. You are capable of doing various types of work, allowing you to generate multiple sources of income. While it may not be a massive fortune, if you maintain a mindset of saving and consistency, the long-term outcome will be quite promising. There are also many fine lines on your fingers, which indicates good fortune in later life and stable health. Combined with a mindset of contentment, you are likely to enjoy a peaceful and comfortable life after the age of 60. However, the period from now until 60 may be a time when you have to shoulder many responsibilities, managing your career while stabilizing your family life. It's possible that you're feeling disappointed or losing faith in love due to emotional difficulties that have occurred. Nonetheless, this hand shows very promising signs for later life. Right in the current phase, there are upward lines, symbolizing effort, a positive attitude, and especially support from family. This is an encouraging sign found on your right hand, the hand that represents what you have experienced, are currently going through, and will face in the future. When combining the signs from both hands, it becomes clear that you have gone through a difficult and challenging youth. But in the later part of life, you are likely to be rewarded with fulfillment and peace. The clearly defined wrist lines also support this interpretation. They are signs of good health and indicate that you often receive help from those around you. According to the signs on your palm, this year is not ideal for making large financial investments. It is more of a foundational year, better suited for focusing on intellectual growth and strengthening your inner self. If you are considering a major investment, be sure to prepare thoroughly, from legal matters and financial planning to detailed strategies. If you can lay that groundwork now, your business or work will likely see smoother progress starting next year. Therefore, this year, it would be best to focus on self-development, building meaningful relationships, and improving your knowledge. These will serve as a strong foundation for greater growth in the years to come. Looking at this hand, it's evident that your younger years were filled with pressure, ups and downs, and hard work to reach where you are today. And that journey was far from easy. In terms of marriage, realistically speaking, it's possible you have gone through a divorce, or there are signs that suggest emotional instability and lack of long-term relationship fulfillment. This concludes the full palm reading analysis. If you are watching this video, I wish you good health, great success, and lasting happiness in life. Thank you so much.